Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody had a great Mother's Day yesterday and enjoyed the time with your families. I know we did. Um, and I also want to mention to you that this coming Friday night at 7 p.m., we're doing a live prayer meeting. Friday night at 7 p.m., we've got 4 different groups, prayer teams that are going to be praying each from their own home, and 4 different worship leaders that are going to lead us in worship from their own homes. So I'm really excited about putting this all together, and we'll be streaming it live on Facebook Friday, May 15th at 7 p.m. So I hope you join us. Today I want to go back to a parable we read once last week, and I want to go over it again today because as I've been going deeper into it, I was just kind of going to overlook it and go on to something else. But I just read into it a little bit more, and it has really been speaking to me. So I want to share it with you again, and I'll probably be preaching about this coming Sunday. Even if we don't talk about it all week long, I do want to talk about it again today. So it's Luke chapter 16, verse 19. Luke 16, verse 19. So let's look at it. There was a rich man who was dressed in purple and fine linen and lived in luxury every day. At his gate was laid a beggar named Lazarus, covered with sores, and longing to eat what fell from the rich man's table. Even the dogs came and licked his sores. The time came when the beggar died, and the angels carried him to Abraham's side. The rich man also died and was buried in Hades, where he was in torment. He looked up and saw Abraham far away and Lazarus by his side. So he called to him, "Father, Abraham, have pity on me," said Lazarus. "Have pity on me. Send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, because I'm in agony in this fire." But Abraham replied, "Son, remember that in your lifetime you received your good things, while Lazarus received bad things. But now he is comforted here, and you are in agony. And besides this, between us is a great chasm that has been set in place, so that those who want to go from here to you cannot, nor can anyone cross from there to us." And then it goes on a little bit more, but I just want to talk a little bit about this part. So as I was getting into this, all of these parables are really saying a very similar thing, but just in a different way. The parable of the talents, right? The giving and investing and serving, and then at the end, 2 are allowed in and 1 is not. The prodigal son, at the end of this prodigal son, 1 goes in and the other does not. And then you have the Good Samaritan, and he's giving and serving of himself and helping someone else who's so different than he is, a Samaritan and a Jew. And so you look. I went back and looked at all of the different stories that Jesus has been telling, and it's always getting down to this decision, right? And to the final destination. So here now we have it again, and we have a man who ends up, 1 in heaven and 1 in hell. So now it's not just figurative. He's saying he ends up in Hades, he ends up in hell, and the other one in paradise by Abraham's side. So as we look at this, this guy, it's a huge contrast that Jesus is presenting here, because you have a rich man who is said to be dressed in purple and lived in luxury every day, right? So this guy is not just wealthy, he's the wealthy of the wealthy, right? He wears purple, which is an expensive garment and costly, and normally for royal and the highest levels of nobility. So this guy, and Jesus makes an effort to say he lived like this every day. So this guy was the wealthiest of the wealthy. And then you have the contrast to that, this guy who is so poor and probably crippled. He's laid down, which means he probably can't even walk himself. And he has sores that he can't get taken care of, and dogs are licking his sores. So you have this 2 total opposites, right? Sides of the spectrum. Super, super rich, super, super poor. Most of us fall somewhere in between. But Jesus is again, for contrast, he's going to the 2 extremes and sides of the spectrum. And John MacArthur, in a sermon that I was listening to this week, he talks about the great reversal that has just happened. And here's what he says. He says, this incredible reversal, because in life, 1 was extremely wealthy and 1 was extremely poor and lived in poverty. So poor that it may be that when the rich man dies and he says he was buried, A lot of times the poor wouldn't even get a burial. And that's why it doesn't even mention that he was buried. It just says he was taken away. So here's this great reversal. One lived in great wealth, one in great poverty. And the one who was poor is now rich. And the one who was rich is now poor. The one who was hungry is now fed. And the one who was well fed is now hungry. The one who wished he could eat the crumbs that fell from the rich man's table is now sitting at the banquet table. And the one who threw banquets is outside hungry and thirsty. And not only that, remember Jesus talked about coming and sitting at the side of the host meant a seat of honor. He sees Lazarus at the side of Abraham, right? Lazarus isn't just some guy in the corner of heaven. He's right there next to Abraham's side. So the one who was a nobody is now a somebody. The one who was a somebody is now a nobody. The one who had nothing has everything. And the one who had everything now has nothing. The one who had everything, he had all he desired, now desires even a drop of water. And the one who desired everything now has everything he desires. The one who suffered is now healed and satisfied. And the one who was satisfied is now suffering. The one who was humiliated is now honored. And the one who was honored is now humiliated. The one who was seeking help is now and received none is now helped. And the one who offered no help now is asking for help. The undignified now has dignity, and the one who had dignity has none. And the one who had no hope now has hope, and the one who had hope now has none. And really, when you think about it, the rich man was hoping, trusting in what he had. And I'm not, you really can't say that Lazarus didn't have hope, but his hope obviously was not in anything material that he had. And I think about this and how it must relate to what Jesus says when he says the first will be last and the last will be first. You kind of wonder, well, wait a minute, we're thinking, kind of chronologically or linearly when you go in a line, one goes first, one goes second. How can the first be last and last first? And I'm wondering if it's part of what Jesus is getting to is this reversal that's going to happen in heaven. But I want us to understand that all of us and the vast majority of us live somewhere in the middle, right? We live somewhere in the middle. We're not one extreme on the poverty side, and we're not the other extreme on the super wealthy side. We're somewhere in the middle. But in that middle, there's still opportunity. There's still opportunity for us to serve, for us to give in whatever capacity we can. The more wealthy you are, the more you have that you can give. But that doesn't mean that I can't give. Remember, there was a little bit further on here that says that there's a widow who came and she just gave a few pennies, right? She came with an offering and just gave a few pennies. And next to her came this man with like a huge offering and gave it. And Jesus said the widow gave more than the rich guy because she gave out of her great need, right? So that, again, for us, it doesn't matter who we are, how little we have or how much we have. When we give it for the Lord, right, the Lord honors that and he sees that. And then he's the one that rewards. We don't have to keep track. Right? We don't have to keep a tally. He does that. But here's the other more important thing. A lot of this, there's a definite message of serving that is communicated in these parables of helping others. But remember, the most important thing, along with the serving, but the most important thing is where they end up. Right? That's what is most important. Now, so we should be serving, but what we really need to be thinking about, okay, where am I going to end up? Where am I going to end up when it's my time? And make sure that when that time comes, you have the hope, the assurance that you will be by Jesus's side, that you will be with him in heaven. Because Paul said to be absent from the body is to be at home with the Lord. So make sure you have that. And if you don't, if you're wondering, message me, talk to someone, go to a church, find someone that can let you know and guide you into what it means and how you can have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. So the Lord bless you. Look forward to sharing again with you tomorrow and just digging into his word. God bless you as you go through your day today.